Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Performance Analytics and Reporting Office Hours. A special welcome to all the new attendees who are joining us for the first time, and everybody who's returning, welcome back. Glad to see you again. We're first going to run through a couple logistics before we get into our main discussion for today. So first of all, these office hours are absolutely for you. We're trying to bring you fresh ideas and a better understanding and some practical guidance about what performance analytics and reporting and ServiceNow, how to best leverage that for you. These sessions are recorded. When we get into Q&A, as we're going, please feel free to put Q&A into the Q&A window as we're going. But as we're going, we may ask you to come off mute and ask that question. So if we do, just understand that we are recording this publicly. And if you prefer not to come off of mute, if we have a detailed question, just let us know. The sessions will be posted after we're done. And again, on the Q&A, we do see the chat, but Q&A is much better. That allows us to make sure we're tracking and answering every question as we're going. Don't feel the need to hold up until the end. Go ahead and let those come in, and we will answer them as we're going. And then once we're done with the presentation, we'll go through everything we can. While we're going through the presentation, please hold your questions to about what we're talking about. But then once we're done going through those at the end, we'll open it up to any question you have about performance analytics and reporting. And today, I am your host, Adam Stout, an outbound product manager for Now Platform and Now Intelligence. And our speaker today is somebody we've heard from before. Thomas Davis is going to give us some really great insight into performance analytics formulas. This session, when we're done, is going to be posted into the community. Most of you would have come into this page before. We have an index of all the previous recordings, and every one of those is also going to have the links that we talk about, the presentation and the recording. So if you haven't caught up with previous sessions, you can access those. There's a playlist on YouTube. You can subscribe to that, and if you do happen to miss us live, generally later Wednesday or Thursday morning, you'll get that presentation posted, the recording and the documentation. And to supplement, there's still also a lot of great information in Now Learning. Lots of great K20 labs to give you hands-on experience. And I think we're going to talk about some of those that are going on, but then just lots of other information. So we're giving you an intro. So if you want to know more about what we're talking about, we'll follow up with some hands-on training that you can do to get more practice onto this. And with that, I want to turn it over to Thomas Davis. Thomas, are you there?
I am here. Let me share my screen here. And we're going to go to desktop 2. Okay, good. Can you see my screen? Oh, nope. I guess you can't. Got to hit the button. Can you see my screen now?
I can see it.
It's important to hit that share button. All right. Thank you, Adam. So like Adam said, my name is Thomas Davis, and I'm sure that you've heard from me before. If not, welcome to the new ones that are out there. So today we are going to talk a little bit about leveraging performance analytics formulas and see if we can give you all some great information that perhaps you are using now, but you can enhance it a little bit. Or if you're not using these particular things, you can start using these or dabble in it and see if you can create some new things for your business from it. So let me get everything in the right place. There we go. So what is a formula indicator? Based on the audience here, pretty good chance that you already are familiar with formula indicators, but if you're not, so, just understand the formula indicators they're out there and give you the ability to take multiple indicators and bring those together and do mathematical functions on those. So understand that when you use a formula indicator, it does not have its own source. Its source is indicators who already have indicator sources applied to them. So you don't have to apply an indicator source to a formula itself. It's going to pull that from those existing indicators. And they are calculated when the user views the widget. If it's the formula indicators on a widget or on a that's on a dashboard or an analytics hub, that's when it's actually all those mathematical functions are actually ran. So there's no job data collection or anything that's associated with the formula indicator itself per se, because it is getting it from the existing indicators that are out there. So cases when formula indicators are needed, here's some quick cases for you. So if you need to calculate a score from multiple indicators, such as the average of 2 indicators, you can do that in a formula indicator. Maybe you need to extract calculated value from an indicator from the analytics hub and perform operations on that value. We'll actually talk about that in more depth here later on, but that is something that you can do as well. And then if you need to measure the gap between the overall target of multiple combined indicators, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So here's a few cases of when you can actually use performance analytics formula indicators for some of the needs that you may have. So create a formula indicator. So creating it, we need to compute the new score from one or more other indicators. The formula indicator itself can also include calculations from the analytics hub we talked about a few seconds ago, such as gaps between indicator score and indicator targets. Formulas are often used to calculate ratios and percentages, combine data from different applications. You can build predictive indicators based on historic performance in formula indicators, and the fields from formula indicators are similar to those of an automated indicator. However, instead of a source, additional conditions and collection properties, a formula statement is defined. Formulas can consist of indicators, constants, variables, and time series, or any combination of these elements. You must have a subscription to PA to create indicators, and if you're using domain separation, the indicator is created in the domain that you are currently in, and the role required is PA power user or admin. So this is the formula indicator form. It's probably familiar to everyone that's on here, but let's take a little bit deeper dive into it so we understand exactly what we have. So right at the top, name, that's given, right? Everybody understands what that name, what the name is, but make sure that you use a descriptive name, one that means something and will make searching for it easier, for others. And if there is a description, I always recommend that you use descriptions. Quite often people don't, but I think descriptions are important. It gives you the ability to actually give more detail about what exactly it is that is being created and is going to be out there for others to see. And a lot of times it may actually decide whether or not someone needs to create something new. And if you don't have to create something new, there's no sense in recreating the wheel per se. So putting information into the description will help with that. So direction, it decides which way the score should be going and which way that you want to measure that. So this is an answer that you'll want to know during the creation process of your formula. It's important for that score to go up or to go down, increase or decrease. So if an increase is a good thing, then selecting maximize is what is best. As the example states, if the indicator showing revenue, show an increase, maximize is what you should select. You want to show an increase in revenue. That's a good thing. However, if an increase is not desired, select minimize. Again, the example here will show that the text in the indicator shows cost, and cost is something that we want to decrease. So you want to make sure that you set that correctly so it's going the direction that you want. Selecting nones mean that a change in the score has no impact to your business, and that's okay as well. So understand that analytics tools and graphic displays use the direction selected here. So if you use a formula indicator in a single score widget on a dashboard, it will use the minimize and maximize from here to show that direction. So make sure that you know what you want to do with that during the creation process. So unit determines how the value of your formula indicator will be displayed. You can see in the image to the left that there are quite a few to choose from. Make sure that you are selecting the one that will give you your desired value when displaying. Click on the magnifying glass to select your desired unit is how you get to that. And again, it's important to know exactly what you are looking at. So precision, will the value displayed have digits behind it to the right of the decimal, or do you want a whole number displayed? This will tie directly together with the unit that you select. If you select percentage for a unit, perhaps you want 2 as your precision to show 2 digits behind the decimal. Perhaps you're displaying a value of time. You'll want to make sure that that is displayed correctly. So when a user looks at it, they understand the value that is displaying. Selecting key will identify the indicator as a key indicator when filtering the list of indicators in the Analytics Hub. So if you're searching in the Analytics Hub for indicators, selecting key here will make sure that it shows up in that list. So formula. So here's the nuts and bolts of what a formula indicator is really about and where we sort of create it to make sure that all those other things work correctly. So while you could add indicators manually, if you use the browse for indicator function, you ensure that you have the proper notation for indicators and break down elements. Sometimes there's an extra character that maybe you're not aware of. So If you are clear on what it is, it's okay typing those in there manually, but it's always good to browse for that as well. So to put the score of an indicator into the formula, click the browse for an indicator link and fill in the dialog. This is repeatable. You can add in multiple indicators into your formula. When you click on the plus, it'll take you to the dialog box shown here to the left. There you will select the indicator that you will want to insert as a component of the formula. You can decide if you want to specify a breakdown. If you do, you will have to also specify an element of that breakdown. So again, you can't just select the breakdown. You will have to select an element as well of that breakdown. This breakdown and element will only apply to this component of the indicator selected and not the formula indicator as a whole. You have a primary breakdown and also a second breakdown if desired. And you can put that into both components of the formula if you choose to do so. Time series, you can select a predefined function like running 7 running average or 28-day running average, etc. Again, just like with the breakdown selected, this only applies to the component that you're selecting currently of the formula indicator. Using a method, when this is selected, it will return a unique identifier instead of the score for this indicator. When you want to use a method in a formula, select this box to get a calculated value of the indicator from the Analytics Hub. We'll discuss this more here in a little bit. Actually have a demo on that. Okay. So here, once again, you have decided on the indicators needed in your formula. You'll want to add some mathematical operators to and symbols as you need. Here you can see that I've added a division operator and also a multiplication operator. I want to know the percentage of open incidents that are critical. If you want to specify a collection period in the formula, you can use the variable score start and score end to refer to the start and end of the data collection period for the indicator selected. So again, using the score start and score end directly ties to the data collection when it's collected. Score start is almost always correct. Sometimes score end can give you some different results than you may be looking for. So be careful with that as well. So there are some caveats. So make sure that you look into the ServiceNow doc, change to score start and end because of different user time zones. So time zones make a big difference here as well. Please understand this section in light blue at all costs. Try not to use glide records or glide aggregates in PA scripts or formula indicators. Understanding that sometimes it's inevitable, but know that they are expensive, potentially running hundreds of thousands of times. Always look for an alternate before you use those. I would say the best rule of thought is to never use them, and I'm sure that Adam would agree, but sometimes there are situations where you need to, but just be very wary of what you're doing because it can have an impact to performance. So access control. So do you want to publish it on the Analytics Hub? Check that box there. Who's it visible to? If you want it visible to everyone, just leave it as everyone. But if there are groups and users that you want to have it visible to, you can select the drop down and select groups and users, and it will bring up a groups and users dialog box where you can actually select those and visible to all roles. Do you want everybody to be able to see this no matter what their role is as well? So you can make those changes there. So in the other tab, you can set miscellaneous properties. The properties apply to the entire formula. So whatever you select, it will apply to everything. So default time series. Decide here if you want to apply a predefined analytics function. Depending on whether apply time series to result is set, this time series can apply either to each component or part of the formula because the result is calculated, or to actual results. So you can decide where you want to apply that to. Live group profile, this determines where the live group where the indicator scores are published. Order, this determines in what order indicators are displayed in the Analytics Hub. So the lower the value, the higher the indicator is displayed on the list. If no value is provided, then it goes to displaying using the A to Z. So what does that mean? So when you go to the Analytics Hub and you search for indicators, if you have an order here and it is a low number, it will come up in that list higher. The higher the number, the further down on the list it is. And if it has none, it just reverts right to alphabetical of what the way that the indicator itself is named. Render continuous lines. When this is selected, the Analytics Hub will show data as unbroken in the lines for the indicator, even when there's no data for a specific date. Continuous lines are not rendered when a time series is set on the indicator or the Analytics Hub itself. So apply time series to result. This applies a time series aggregation to the result of the calculation of the formula instead of to each component indicator before the result is calculated. If a default time series is specified for the indicator, the option only applies to that time series. So again, this is of the formula indicator as a whole. So if none have been set at the component, it's going to get this that you set here. So allow formula component to be null. This allows the formula to calculate when it contains a null score. So if you have a thought that maybe a score that's coming back may be null, you want to make sure that you check that there so it will actually do the calculation. And allow aggregation of multiple breakdown element scores. So this allows you to aggregate more than one of the indicator's breakdown elements, which I know is very important. So make sure that you're doing this. If this is selected, you can select either aggregated or separated values of the form for a breakdown dashboard that uses the indicator. Formulas based on addition and subtraction multiplication are good candidates for allowing aggregation. So again, if you want to be able to see more than one level of the breakdown, make sure that you have that checked there. Where did I go? There I am. Sorry about that. Yeah. So a little bit more, then we'll get into some demos. So forecasting. So forecasting is available in the Analytics Hub. It will look at existing trends and will render the forecasting scores as a dotted line. So again, it will take previous scores and determine what the forecasting is of that. Indicator frequency will determine the number of data points included in the forecast. And if you want to show the forecast on the Analytics Hub, click the chart settings for that forecast, and you can see that in that image there. And that will, again, give you forecasting. So statistic exclusions. So if you do have the ability to remove any of those. So if there's some that has no value to you, you can definitely remove those. And here you can see in the screenshot what section of the Analytics Hub that actually associates to. So if you decide you don't want maximum, medium, or minimum, just move those over to the selected and they will not show up on the Analytics Hub. All right, and once you actually save your formula indicator or submit it, you'll get some related lists down at the bottom. So here you can see what those related lists are, and if you need to use those, adding breakdowns to the formula. So again, you want to make sure that you're adding breakdowns that are in the component indicators of the formula. You will get some odd looking scores or funny scores maybe if one of the if you have a breakdown here that is maybe in one of the components, but not in the second one if you do have multiple. So make sure that you pay close attention to that. And if there's any targets or thresholds that you want to apply to that formula indicator when it's being seen in the Analytics Hub, you can add those here as well. And if there's any time series exclusions that you don't want to be there, you would add those there as well. Okay. And then if you want to add or manage the breakdowns to the formula as a whole, then you can click on the manage breakdowns at the top and you can apply any breakdown to that formula indicator. But got a typo there, sorry about that, but only breakdowns that are configured for every component like I was just talking about. So you have the ability to do it at that point as well. So here we have a quick video of how you actually create a formula indicator. And all we're doing here is we're going to Performance Analytics Formula Indicators. We're creating a new one. And in this example, again, I want to see the percentage of open incidents that are critical. It's a good use case. What's the percentage of my open incidents that are out there that are critical? Someone may definitely want to know that. So again, I'm going ahead and putting in a description here. So someone that's searching, they can get a little bit more information about that, and hopefully it will give them what they need, and maybe they don't have to create a new one. Not in all cases, but sometimes. And here you can see I'm not the best typer. And we want this to minimize, so we want this to be low. And this is a percentage, and we want a precision of 2, so we can see something on the right side of that. And here I'm going to add some existing indicators that I know that are out there. And the first one is number of open critical incidents. So I'll grab that first and apply that in there. And I'll go ahead and put my division operator. And then I'm going to look for number of open incidents. So this is overall what is open. Don't care what the priority is. So I'll select that as well. And I'll go ahead and put in my multiplication and multiply that times 100 because I know I'm looking for a percent. And I always like to put parentheses around the components themselves. And then I'm going to go ahead and publish that on the Analytics Hub. And I want to make sure I render continuous lines and give the ability for breakdown of all the elements. And I'll go ahead and hit submit. And then what we can do is we can actually go back to that, and I'll update it and I'll look for the new one, and there it is. And then once we get in here, I can click on show an analytics hub, and it will give me the ability to actually now see values. So here I can see, for each day, what percentage of open incidents that are out there are critical. So it's saying there on December the 7th that 3.2% of what is out there is actually in a critical state, which is actually a pretty good number, but every business is different. But here, a really quick use case of being able to actually, use the formula indicator. So next, let's talk a little bit about using methods. If you've never used methods before, this is a feature that is very valuable and can give you some really good numbers. So in this case, what I'm actually building out is I want to see the change. I want to see the weekly change, meaning from last week to this week, what is the actual number of change from an incident? How many do I have? So, it's quite easy to create or have an indicator that's showing incidents weekly, and you can look at one point and then look at the other and see that there is an increase, and then you can look at those two numbers and you could do the math real quickly probably, but why not actually show what that change is? So here, again, it's going to be minimized and it's going to be a number. And here, so some of this formula I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and paste in, and we'll actually talk about that here in a little bit more so you'll understand what that is. But now I'm going to browse for a method, and the method that I'm looking for is get change. And there it is, get the change of the specified indicator. I'm not going to worry about dates in this, and I'm going to go ahead and post that in. And here's where I'm actually going to look for an indicator. So right there where it says indicator is where I want to actually look for it. So I'm going to click on browse for an indicator. Go ahead and backspace that out and put in browse for an indicator. And I'm going to find the indicator that I need, which is number of new incidents. So I want to see what's new, what's the change of that from day to day. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the last period, which is my variable that I've established up at the top. And then also the score start. So I need to be able to look at that. And I made some syntax error here, so you're gonna find out here in a second when I try to save that it's not gonna work. We'll go ahead and save that. Generated an error, and I actually had an extra parenthesis in there that I'll notice here, and I'll take that out. It did change to that sysid, but I can go ahead and put that same incident or indicator right back into that, and then I'll remove that front leading parenthesis that's over there to the left. There it is. There we go. So that last period, it is add days, and it's looking for the past 7, which is a week. So now I have actually created a formula indicator with a method. So I'm going to go to my formula indicators and I'm going to look for it. And I'm also going to create let's go to the next page. I'm sorry. So here now I go back into the actual formula and I show it in the analytics hub, and I'm going to pull my time frame down that I'm actually looking at it so it'll make a little bit more sense. And I'm going to change my aggregate to by week sum. So now I can actually see some values there. So what that's saying is that on that particular week, there's 72 less of new incidents, and that's relative to 0. So that's why there is a negative number. And here in a second, I'll actually show you these side by side, and it'll make a whole lot more sense of what we're actually looking at here. But this is how you can quickly see change from week to week. And so now let's look actually at the formula itself so we can help understand that. So the glide date and time is basically creating a new date time that is the same data as a score start that we're going to use in our last line. The last period is the period. What period do we want to look at, and how far back do we want to go? You can change that. There is add weeks, add months, and you can do that if you choose to. The variable is always used in a method, and we want to make sure that that's there. And then the number of new incidents is just the indicator that we're using. And then the score start is the start of the data collection. So this is what that actual formula is about. And it will be in there, and you can definitely use that going forward if you need to. So here we're going to just change this, and we're going to make this a monthly. So basically what I do is I change that to month, and then I actually am going to change that 7 to 1. So now we're going to look at the previous month. Going to change the name of it here to monthly because we have a different use case. Someone needs to look at the monthly change, and all I do is simply do an insert and stay, and it is there. And then I will go and find that one that I just created. And there it is up at the top. And then when I look at this one in the Analytics Hub as well, and then I'm going to change my aggregate. I'm going to shrink down that so it'll be a little more cleaner. And then I change my aggregate to by month sum. And I'll just pause this here. And now it's actually showing the month and what it is based on the previous month where we actually can get that change. And again, seeing these side by side will give you a lot more clarity here in a second. But the point of this is to show how easily you can take that existing formula that we had and change it to months, and make sure that you change it to 1 because it's not 7 anymore. So you want to make sure that you can just look 1 month back and then just add the months. But you can definitely do an insert and stay off of this one. So here, let's revisit. So basically what we're looking at, this is an indicator that is just showing the number of new incidents. So here you can see, and let me back this up here a little bit. So here you can see that between April and May, there is no difference. It stayed the same. So 1,254 is what it was. And this, again, this is just the number of new incidents indicator that's inside of the Analytics Hub. But now let's look at that same information based on change, which is in my next tab here. So when I click on that and I zoom in, so remember, there was no change in April to May. So when I go up to May, even though the number is going up from an overall perspective, there is no change. So 0 change between April and May. And what actually will give you even more clarity is when you look at a change percent. So I went ahead and created a change percent formula indicator that's using the method add change percent. And it then will actually give you the percentage of change overall between each month as well. And we'll go ahead and play that so you can see that. So there's 61 from May to June. And when I click here, I can see that there's a 0% change, but there's a 5% change between May and June. So again, this gives you the ability to actually see those change, not so much just directly as a number that you have to do that quick calculation on the fly, but it gives you the ability to actually see those numbers. And if you have year over year data, you can actually see that by clicking on the year over year inside the Analytics Hub, and you can actually see the same period of time for the previous year. What were those percentages, increases or decreases, to see if every year the same thing is happening at a certain point in the year or something, or something like that. So this is a really great, method to use. There are a lot of methods that are out there, and we're not going to go through all of these. This is more so for reference for you, but there are a lot of different ones that are out there in that drop-down list, and this kind of gives you a little bit more information on exactly what each one of those are. So you get some time, I definitely look at these and see if there's one that will work for you. So the next big thing is indexing multiple indicators in a formula. So you can write a formula to actually measure the gaps to an overall target of multiple or combined indicators, such as a formula indicator. It's called index indicator. So if you have multiple indicators that you have a gap on, and you want to measure that gap overall, meaning all of the gaps themselves, you can do that within an index indicator by indexing an indicator. So the performance of processes, service groups, and other business entities are often tracked and monitored using more than one indicator. So when viewing those and analyzing those, the process of business, sometimes the overall picture can be confusing and ambiguous. So for example, so although the scores of 3 indicators improve somewhat, the scores for 2 of them are still below target. And 1 is above target. So seeing all of those together is something that's very powerful. So the score of 1 indicator remain more or less the same, but is still below target. The score for 1 indicator did significantly deteriorate, but is fortunately just above the target. So looking at this information, the answers to the following questions are not clear. And again, some more examples. Is the overall performance of the process service group still at or above the desired level? Can you answer that with anything that you have currently, or do you need an index indicator to show that? Did the overall performance improve? So, the principle behind an index indicator is to calculate a score value index to 100 for each of the indicators. So when you have these index scores, you are mathematically allowed to calculate an overall average of them all. And indicators must have a target set to be included in index indicators. So make sure that if you are looking to do this, you have set that target on that index or on that indicator itself. So a really great way of doing this is there's a Knowledge 2020 lab, Performance Analytics 203 Advanced Use Cases, that has 2 labs that walks you through actually building out index indicators. And here you can see in the screenshot of what it actually gives you. So down at the bottom of this screenshot, you can see that there's an average resolution time of resolved incidents, percentage of incidents resolved by first assignment group, and percentage of new critical incidents. And what this is doing, this is comparing those index scores based on the targets that they have. So again, if this is something that you have ever been asked for or are looking to do, I would definitely recommend that you do the Knowledge 2020 lab. It walks you through actually creating those indexes and showing the percentage of targets for achievement. So it's of great value. I would definitely recommend that you look at that. It's a great lab, and again,
I
the step by step is very powerful. I've went through it obviously. So if you have time, I would definitely recommend that. So
I just want to note that it was a K19 lab, not a
was it? I'm
K2020 lab.
sorry. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so it doesn't have the hands-on one. You don't get the instance, but the materials there will have the link to it.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for it, you won't find it in the K20 labs. You'll find it in the K19 labs.
Thank you, Adam. Sorry about that. So in conclusion, so formula indicators give you the ability to do mathematical calculations with indicators. For example, a formula can include the gap, a difference between the score of an indicator and the target values set on the analytics hub. Using methods and index indicators, you utilize methods and index indicators within formula indicators. There are ample useful links that are out there. There's many inside of the ServiceNow docs, and the links that I have here were mentioned inside the Prezo itself or referenced inside the Prezo. So these are all there for you. Definitely look at those and maximize those. The PA Formula Utilities API is where you can actually learn more in great depth about all of the methods that are out there. But for the sake of time, it would be hard to do a demo on all of those that are there, but definitely go out there and look at those. And then again, indexing multiple indicators in a formula. It's a great write-up in the ServiceNow doc that gives you great information. And I had the same typo here. So it's not the Knowledge 2020 lab, but it is the Knowledge 19 lab. And there's a direct link there that you can go to it and actually walk through that. And there's Now Learning that's out there as well, Formula Indicators Overview that you can go. And inside of, and I didn't mention them here, but inside of the Performance Analytics Fundamentals and Advanced, there is sections there that also talk to formula indicators. So I know a lot of information in 34 minutes, a lot of information, but if you need the methods, definitely utilize them, get more information, as much information as you can about that. And if you need help, make sure that you definitely, ask a question in the community and tag myself, and I will definitely get back with you and help you, get what you're looking for. But take advantage of what is out there already and see if you're able to accomplish it on your own. But if not, just reach out to me in the community. I had a slide that said questions. I don't know where it went, but with that, any questions? What do we got, Adam?
A couple of questions have come in that we've been able to, I think we've been able to answer, but just so everybody's aware. So one of the questions that came up had to do with when we were editing the formulas, and the SysID that showed up, right? And I think we may have all seen that. Anybody who's worked with formulas has typed something in wrong and had your indicator name go away and a SysID be replaced. And I just want to point out that it's quirky. It's a bit odd, but it's actually a good thing to see those indicators show up. To see the SysID show up for the indicator, and that's because what happens is we validate the name is an actual indicator, and if you don't have it replaced with a SysID, it means we couldn't find it. Um, so when you have a SysID that shows up, it means we found it. And if you click save, Thomas went and retyped the indicator name, which is fine, but you don't need to do that. If the SysID is in there, it will save it correctly and display it as the name the next time when the syntax error is not there. So it's a bit quirky, and we saw it's on there, but it's good, and it doesn't actually mean any extra work for you. Just fix the syntax error, click save, and everything will look like normal once you've saved it. We talked about the formulas that came up. The Q20 labs. Okay, some more questions. All right, here's one for you. So number of open incidents by month average gives me the average by month, but not the number open at the beginning of the month. Would I use score start? Would I use score start instead of by average month? By month average.
So, I mean, this is a unique one by actually having a particular point in the month. And if your score start of when you're actually running that. So again, score start is based on the data collection of when it's actually, gathered in the data collection. So again, I think that I know that it's probably good to use a method here. And I probably would need to refer back here to exactly which one, unless Adam, you already have the answer, which 9 times out of 10 you do. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say so. This is the use case that these were built for. It is something that was impossible. So I'm not sure if we stated it, but everybody has access to the formula utils. We're talking about it now, but the formula utils were introduced in Madrid. So I think everybody on the call should have access to all of them, and there haven't been many changes as we go through. The functionality is the same. But one of the things we couldn't do before was backlog, right? So number of open incidents is the best example. I want to know what was the number of open incidents the last day of the month, the first day of the month. Generally, I'm going for last day of the month because I don't want the work on the first to screw that number up, but either way is fine. Sometimes I want the 15th of the month. Whatever it is, that's fine. These will address it. And the way that I do it is by taking score start for the indicator, and I just go, give me the first day of the month. So there's examples of this in the documentation, but basically you're doing score start and you're just whiting out the date part of it. You're just going to rebuild a date, which is the first of that month. And then I subtract one more day. So I build the first of the month, which is easy. Do add days -1. And that gives me the last day of the month from the previous period. And then every day of the month returns the same value. And then I can do a by-month average because I still want to get the average. You still have to aggregate it somehow. But if every day returns the same value, then the average should be fine. It will still be the correct value. So if I'm looking for number of open incidents, by-month average is wrong. By-month sum is wrong. By-month min, max, even if you could do those are wrong. You want to just go, what was the last day of the last month? And you can do that with these. So absolutely, you can do it. The example is in the docs. And that is the use case for why we have these. Does a lot of other stuff too, but this is the one that is impossible to solve otherwise. Another question, Thomas, have you had a chance to read through the questions? Anything that?
Yeah, I'm actually answering one. Send an answer to the one that second one there about the null. It looks like there might actually be an issue in the syntax there, and I don't know if that's why it's not working. But I was replying in that, so I don't know if you want to speak to it or not. But I feel like there's an issue there in the syntax.
No, it looks okay to me. I don't see what's going wrong. That should be fine. if you want to post that into the community with some screenshots, we can take a look. Yeah, particularly some screenshots. I'd have to test it out as to what's going on because I don't. That should work. Although I will say the allow. So the question is, I want to get a null. Basically, I want something to be. I take my score, and my score is either good or bad, and I want it to be a null if it's bad. And so the setting we talked about, allow formula component to be null, is checked. Actually doesn't matter in this use case because you just want to return null. This has to do is if an indicator value is null, then you have a different problem. And Sucron from support, welcome, said just you can raise a case. So if you want to post it in the community, we can take a look, but you can add a case and we'll certainly help it out because your syntax looks fine. And if we're not, let's figure out how to get you what you're looking for. There's no reason why that shouldn't work that I can see. So it's just some setting somewhere. I will add a note though, when we do all the formulas, they do need to have an indicator in them. There is an optimization that we don't show indicators. We don't calculate the score if there's no date for it. It's how we know. Anyway, there's an optimization in for that. So your formula, even if it's just math, will still require you to have an indicator that has a score for that date. So often I will throw in the global number of open incidents because there's always a score for number of open incidents. I know that indicator runs. There's always a score, so I put that in even if I'm not using it. Even if you're doing a constant. And there is a there's a community article that talks about some of the advanced JavaScript formula stuff you can do, which we'll make sure we'll add to the links in the page. But it talks about that. But that might be your problem, that you're just missing an indicator. So take a look at the links that we'll have posted with the recap, and specifically the JavaScript one. And if that's not working, then feel free to post a question or put a question or open a case in high. Next one that came in the case of related items, how can I obtain the average close time?
I'm sorry, I was typing an answer to someone else. If you were asking.
Sure. So I'll cover this one. So for the in the case of requested items, how can I calculate the average close time? And this is a great question that boils down to what's the difference between PA scripts and formulas? And they are very different. And so formulas only act on the aggregate. They only act on scores that are there, not on the data themselves. So it adds scores together, divides one indicator by another indicator. And whether it's in the same time series or we're shifting all that stuff, it's still, we are always dealing with scores. So something like average close time, you have to know the open date and the close date, the open time and the close time, or if it's not closed. So that is a record by record calculation we need to have. So if I have a record by record calculation, I need to do that in a PA script or on the record itself. It's ideally to be on the record itself, but duration is absolutely the use case for PA scripts. So if you look at average close time for incidents, that should be shipping out of the box. You should be able to see the example. What we do for incident is the same. You're just going to change the table and change the script to requested items. But for something like average close time, or that's looking record by record, I need to use a PA script. And then once I have that gives me the close time per incident. Now that's my indicator. I will build an indicator on summing up the average close time divided by the total number of incidents gives me the average close time. But it's not one or the other. It is using scripts along with the formulas to get that average. Okay. Next one. So a question came in about get change percentage and formula utils and the dates not doing exactly what we thought they were. I am not aware of any known errors. My caveat to that is score end does things differently than I would expect it to do. Score end always returns the daily, regardless the day rather than the rest of the score than the period I'm selecting. It's doing the right thing, but it's just not what I want it to do. Um, but I haven't seen any errors or we're getting the wrong dates or we're doing the wrong things like that. If you are getting the wrong values, there's two things you can do. So one, the first thing I do is add in a GS add info message into my formula. And when I add my GS add info message, I can see what's calculating. I can see what it's doing. Or I'll do a GS info and log it and go take a look on a subprod. The logs are a little bit easier to see, but the add info message works as well. And I'm going to debug to go, am I sending it the right date? So I debug with score start in it, and then my date transformation. I put in the scores. I just throw everything in there. Be aware that gets thrown or gets you get an info message or a log for every point that's evaluated. So if I'm looking at a daily indicator, I'm looking at 2 years of data, I'm going to get 770 log entries or info messages. So it's a lot. So you want to focus on what you're doing, but that's how I debug is I use GS add info message or GS info. If you do see something that's wrong, put a case in that you shouldn't be getting wrong dates or wrong results. So if you think it's broken, that matters, and put a case in. Don't be afraid to put a case in if it's just wrong. So that we are certainly here to help support you. Okay. So again, feel free to put in some more questions. I see an unrelated one to formulas, but we'll go ahead and answer that one. And here we go. The PA hourly breakdown in the score sheet in the column series of the widget of a daily indicator collected for the previous day of active incidents is 3 hours behind, even if the job collector time zone is Eastern. Do you know what's causing this? I think I do. And this, if we're looking at the PA hourly breakdown, I believe we ship one that uses get format 8 with the H in the script. I think that's the case. And I believe that's not actually time zone safe. So if you're, I'm using intraday collection. I will just say I don't have quite enough information to answer this, having to do with why are my hourly breakdown doing some weird things. But you do want to look at that breakdown, and you might want to ask in the community, or you can just simply test. But I'm pretty sure that I know we at least at one point we had an out of the box example that was using get format H, which is always using UTC time. And that could be that would be causing some time shift. 3 hours is actually a little odd. Or it could be defaulting to the system time zone, not the job time zone. So there's a better way of doing it if you're using a glide day time. You can get hour from that, I believe, if you want to look in the APIs to see how to call it. But I think it's just the mapping of the script. I think that's probably not giving you what you want. And again, that's something with a GS info, not an add info message, but a GS info, you can log what it's doing and calculate what you see, what the raw number is, what the real time is that it's seeing, and then what like an incident creation time, and then what you process, and you can see if that's correct or not, what you would expect it to be. And then you can try a few of the different one. If you look at one of the new out of the box examples, it's probably okay. If you go get a demo instance, or if you you could try a few of the different options and how you get the hour. So that should work, but make sure you're using make sure your script is doing what you think it should do. And another question, hopefully a simple one. Can I see scores in a list view, score start, score end, and the collected values? So score start and score end are very, very special variables that only exist in PA scripts during the data collection. They're variables in the data collection that have to do with what's being collected. And in formulas, when the formula point's being evaluated, score start and score end exist there. They don't exist otherwise because they're contextual as to what the date point is. So score start and score end, as I'm looking at a formula, if I'm looking at a monthly formula and I look at December 1st. I'm looking at December, then score start is December 1st. When I see the point for November, it's November 1st. And when I see the point for October, it's October 1st. So on the same screen, looking at 3 data points, there's actually 3 score starts. So that doesn't exist in a list view. It's always on the fly for both score start and score end. But if you want to see these scores and the collected values, we would recommend using the score sheet. They do exist in a table. And if you were in a sub prod, you can look at them there. It's either in your PA scores table or PA scores L1 and PA scores L2. The problem is that those could be very, very big tables. And so browsing them is not recommended. Searching them is not recommended. When you're seeing them from Analytics Hub or you're seeing them in Score Sheet, we're using the APIs, which are highly tuned to give you the data back. So if you're in a sub prod, yeah, you can browse them, and I'm not above that. I do it, but be very careful about it, and you will not see score start and score end. You'll just see the values and all the breakdowns. So if you need to browse them, Score Sheet works, and but if you need to see them, be cautious on a production instance. On a sub prod, you'll run into the same problems, but hopefully you won't get a call from your admin saying stop it. Okay, and with that, I don't know if there's anything we missed in chat. I think we've gone through all the questions. If anybody else has anything else, we have a few minutes to answer them. No? Okay, well, in that case, I think I will take over. We'll wrap up a couple closing things. Okay. So if you do have any more questions coming up, please use the community. We're very active in the community. A lot of us on here are active in the community. But I will post for those of you who haven't posted a lot or answer them. There is a great great topic in the community, a great post in the community about how to write a great question to get a quick answer. It's absolutely true. When you do these things, you do most of these things, we can answer your question right the first time. And when you ask a very open-ended question and you didn't look for the answer, you don't post any screenshots, you don't tell us what you did or really what you're looking for, it's really hard to answer. And then everybody gets frustrated. So if you're new to posting or you're not getting the answers that you like when you want to get them in a timely manner, I really highly recommend reading this post about how to ask quality questions so you get a very quick answer. And again, this has been recorded. We'll get it posted either later this afternoon or tomorrow, depending on your time zone. All of the past sessions are there. And again, you'll get the presentation that Thomas did and all the links, lots and lots of links, so that you can get to where you're going. I encourage you to, whether you listen to it again or you send it to a coworker, keep these as a reference. When you are searching the community and you're looking for questions, you're not finding what you're looking for, take a browse through this, because there's a lot of really great in-depth discussions, right? In the 20-30 minutes, you really get a good handle on what do we need to do, what do you need to do, and additional resources that we've vetted for you. A lot of our sessions come from exactly what you guys are asking for. We are here to serve you, to help you. So you please find this article in the community where you can suggest topics. We do go through this. We're coming up with our schedule for January and February. So if you have time in the next week or so, I highly recommend throwing in some topics. If you see one that you like, then say, yeah, throw your vote behind it, comment on it. And if not, there's something you want us to cover, please put a comment in there. That's going to help us produce more content for you that you're looking for. So up until next time, we are going to be skipping our session in 2 weeks. I hope everybody has a happy holidays, happy New Year. The next session would have been on the 30th, and we're going to skip that one. We'll be back in January. And until that time, if you do have questions, use the community, share your expertise. And again, I thank a lot of you that do share your expertise and answer those questions quickly. But if you want some advice, or you want to know what to do, something looks a little weird, a second set of eyes, post it in the community. If you've missed some of our office hours in the past, those are all posted. You can watch the recap. You can just look at the deck. And towards the end of the year, you'll see the next few sessions laid out for us. If you have any from ideas, you have some time as the year wraps up, take a look through the idea portal for performance analytics and reporting, or anything else that you're using, and vote up those ideas that you think are valuable. We absolutely go through those ideas, and the things that get the top votes. Internally, we are discussing how do we address it, how do we fix it, how do we do it, how do we document it, whatever the case may be. But your ideas are very, very important to us. So please submit your ideas on how we can make the product work better for you, and upvote the ones that you like. And again, as we have some time, take some training. Just amazing stuff out there and now learning, whether it's the K20 classes or some of the other ones that are out there for formulas. There are K20 labs, there are sessions, there's some other blog posts, but take advantage of that. And I always encourage you to expand what you're looking for, whether it's ServiceNow fundamentals and get a better understanding of the platform, or virtual agent fundamentals, predictive intelligence fundamentals. So much great content out there for you. Spend an hour or two, or a day or two, or a week or two, however much time you have, you can learn. And there is a good estimate of how much time each one of those classes will take you. So with that, we will see you in a month, in 4 weeks. Have a happy new year. Have all the great holidays. Talk to you guys in next year.